Hey, is this thing on? Lance, Nick, ready? Can you hear me? Welcome to the Live Free and Hunt podcast. A pew pew pew. Hold up. Wait a minute. Pew pew pew. It's a 22. All right, Live Free and Hunt podcast episode 12. We had who?
Mike Guillemette.
We talked just hunting stories. We talked duck conservation, wood boxes. What do we talk about? Shed hunting.
Man, yeah.
Great stories.
He had some great content just to put out for everyone, and some educational stuff.
Yeah.
And just some persistence about never give up. You know, he's been hunting, 30 years now, and he hasn't put many on the ground, but his whole talk about it is never give up. So
Yeah.
And he goes deep.
Oh yeah.
Deep in the woods. He's got a lot of what do you call it?
What, footage or trail cam?
Yeah,
or,
trail cameras.
Yep.
Just if you can follow him on
content.
Facebook. Yeah, follow him on Facebook, follow him on Instagram. We're going to get an Instagram handle going. So, yeah, it was a good podcast. He took a trip up here and he sat in with us. And it's the first one first person we've had post-corona in studio. So it was nice to actually have a face-to-face conversation with
Yes,
somebody
and definitely
again.
keep it going. Yeah, it was great.
So,
Get his information out there so you guys can check out his stuff. He has some great stuff, like we already said. I know
Videos on Facebook and writings
Oh.
on New Hampshire Deer Forum
Yeah.
on
Yep.
Facebook.
excellent
Yep.
writer.
Yeah, so check it out.
Here we go.
Let's get to it.
You're like a bad deck of cards that loves to lose. You don't listen to me, and I don't want you to, 'cause we sure have fun throwing my money away. You bet high, I bet low. You're all in and I'm all broke. Another paycheck down the drain.
Mike, how do you pronounce your last name?
Guillemette.
Guillemette? I've been saying it wrong. I said
Yep.
Mike Guillemette, I
It's
think.
Guillemette, but I just
Guillemette.
go by Guillemette. Make it easy.
Yeah. That was
Americanize it.
good. Yeah, so you made the trek up from Hooksett?
Hooks it.
Yeah.
Very nice. We appreciate that very
Yeah.
much.
Well, thank you for
very
inviting
much.
me. I appreciate
I know.
that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big hike. And you're the first person, post-corona person that we've had
Yeah,
in
studio.
in studio. I know it's, I appreciate that. That's
No
big.
problem.
We're social distancing, by the way.
Yeah, my wife will like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so want to go into how you got into hunting. I know we were talking earlier, and it wasn't what I expected, so.
Yeah, it's actually, there's probably more than we were talking about.
Yeah.
But when I was in high school, this Dave Prue, who I mentioned earlier, was 4 years behind me, and because I lifted weights, he was a scrawny little kid, but he was in the shooting club. I didn't know him. I wouldn't even know who he was.
Right.
And through a mutual friend a few years later, when he was out of high school, we met up, and he had always, looked up to me because he remembers me in high school as one of the strongest kids in school because I was an Olympic-style weightlifter wannabe.
Yeah.
And he was this young kid that was starting to lift, and he also was a hunter and a really good shot. But I didn't know anything about firearms, hunting. I had not a care in the world. That didn't bother me.
You just want to lift heavy
So the only thing
shit.
we really had in common was lifting.
Yeah.
And fishing. We both like to fish.
Yeah.
And he was 19. I think it was 1979. I was at home, and I got a call from him. And now we'll kind of go back a little bit. But when I used to go over his house, he was shooting a bow. So back then, he had a Jennings, and he had put a scope on a bow. I remember seeing the scope, a
scope
pistol
on a-
scope on a bow.
No
back
shit.
in it was actually before 79. So he was ahead of his time.
Yeah. For sure.
So I remember that, and he had the bow, and I tried it, but you had a 3-finger tab underneath.
Okay.
But he went one step further. He didn't use a tab. He took a bandana or a rag, and we would tie the bandana around your wrist, wrap it around the bottom underneath the arrow, and that was our release, and we released.
You
Like a
so you
sling?
released the
So
whole.
you
the
released the whole
bandana.
rag. So you had a rag. It was probably like that thick, and you held it and you pinched. So it was tied in a knot around your wrist.
Yeah.
And then you pinched it around the bottom underneath the nock, and you drew back with that, and then you released it.
So
And,
you were pulling the bow with your
you
fingers.
were pulling the bow with your fingers.
Yeah.
And these bows that Dave had,
Wow.
because we
Let
both
off.
lifted,
Yeah.
they were at 80 and 90 pounds. set.
Jeez,
With-
90 pounds
Yeah,
setup.
yeah,
In
so
79,
the
you're
first
talking
time I
zero
actually
let
went
off,
with
too.
him,
Straight wheel bows.
it's crazy. The first time I went with him to shoot,
80, 90 pounds.
one of the bows he gave me, I didn't wear
Arm
an
guard.
arm guard, and my arm from lifting and everything kind of turns in like this.
Oh yeah.
90 pounds to the
I
arm.
released that arrow, and that string gave me a black and blue
Raspberry.
mark. Oh, black! Oh, it was the whole length of the forearm, and it was nasty. And I mean, I've never felt pain like that, and I've had some
my
surgeries,
God.
but that was nasty. And so I got a little bit with the bow, but I wasn't still interested in hunting. And then when in his bedroom, he had this cartridge board he made, so he had like a 22 mag. I'm saying these now. Back then, I didn't know what the heck they were.
Right, yeah.
They went all the way up to, I think, maybe a 300 Winchester mag. So he had to take each individual cartridge and glued it to a board. And he was telling me, and I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
My grandfather has an old plaque like that. Shows you all the
So
calibers
so he
all the
made
way
this.
up.
This was homemade, and so he's trying to get me interested in shooting and hunting, but I had no interest. So we go to this fall back in '79. He was 19 years old. And he calls me and he says, Mike, I just shot this big buck up in Sutton, New Hampshire. I need a hand getting it out of my car. And it was a Lincoln Continental. He had an old Lincoln. And I says, Dave.
Stuffed in the trunk.
Yeah, stuffed in the trunk. And I said, Dave, I can't go. I can't help you. I don't want to see a dead deer in the back of your trunk.
Yeah.
He goes, Mike, I need a hand getting it out. I go, Dave, I can't. I'm sorry. I just can't. I can't see that. I don't see the point of that,
Right.
So, anyways, a couple of days later, I'm looking at the Union Leader in the sports section, and there's Dave, all in camouflage, and the headliner above his picture says, "The buck stops here." Dave Bruce, 19 years old or whatever, 17, shoots a 203-pound 6-pointer up in Sutton, New Hampshire.
Cool.
That's
The
a nice
cool
deal.
part of the story is that he was kind of like one of these guys. I don't know if you know people that just they never have everything together. And these
That's
guys
also,
were
I forgot this. I
yeah,
forgot that.
and the guys the night before Friday night invited him, and he had to get whatever he had together, and they met up there, and they told him up off this mountain they were going to be, we're going up on the mountain, we're going to be all over the place, wherever you're going to sit down here, wherever you're going to hunt. If you shoot something, fire 3 times so that we know you shot something.
He didn't have his bullets, huh?
So, well, this is I always love this story. I wrote about this story, one of my first stories in the Hampshire Deer page, like 3 or 4 years ago. But this is what I loved about it, was that he was sitting there. Everybody was gone. It was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and this doe had popped out. Now, you got to remember, he's probably the best shot I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And this doe pops out, and then this buck pops out, and he's got a 270, I think, and he drops the buck right in its tracks right there. And probably an hour and a half or 2 later, one of the guys comes down, another guy comes down, and one of the guys goes right over to him. He goes, I told you when we dropped you off this morning down here that when you shoot something, you got to fire 3 times. And Dave says, I only had 1 bullet.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he grabbed the bullet the Friday night before off the cartridge and took the glue off.
What?
And that's the bullet he used.
Holy crap! Does he still have that plaque?
I don't know.
That would be awesome. Be like, that's the bullet. I missed the bullet.
So he had taken that off that board that he had shown me like 2 or 3 years earlier, and that was the 1 bullet he had. He had no ammo
No kidding.
to go on that
That's
shot. And
crazy.
so that's, and then from then on, he gave me the Jennings. The Jennings exploded on me. We kept cranking to get the weight and the limb. Everything blew up. And then from there, I think in '81, I bought a brown bear
Yep.
at a place in Pembroke, Al's Archery. It's no longer there.
I still have a brown bear.
Do you really?
Yes, I
the,
do.
The nice laminated
Yes.
those are
Compound?
beautiful. Compound.
Yes.
Beautiful bow.
Yeah, it's still out. It's at my father's house.
Oh, you're
I
lucky.
think it only goes up to 30 pounds though.
Oh no, the one I had went up to 65.
Yeah,
I think.
this
yeah.
one. Yeah. Oh, maybe no. It's 30 pounds. Yeah, because I remember shooting it when I was a kid.
And then I kind of all of a sudden was hooked. And
Yeah.
when we go to Barnstead and Alton, like I told you before, Barnstead's where I saw my first moose track.
Yeah.
And we'd go to behind his uncle's farm, and we would walk out behind the cornfields. I remember taking an army duffel bag with him, and we'd stuff 2x4s, hammers, nails, and walk out in the cornfield in the middle of the afternoon, find a tree on his uncle's property. We'd make this makeshift tree stand on each end. So we're in there nailing and hammering and cutting everything. And then that evening we're back in the tree stand hunting, expecting to see this nice buck walk by. And we never saw anything. It was
Right.
when I think about it today, and yet back then I was like, every night we went out and
that's
did this,
awesome.
I thought we were going to shoot something.
That's awesome.
But
I still feel like that. If I mess up, I'm like, no, tonight's the
no
night.
no
Like,
scent
yeah.
control, right?
Yeah.
No scent control.
No, times have changed.
It's
Big
just,
time.
yeah. So I've seen, from what we used to do, and I just laugh. I think and I used to think every single time we went out and did that, we
Yeah.
were going to shoot a buck, and we never did.
There's some
That's awesome though. You go out with
the old school guys though, or in the 70s, they're still like you said, no scent control, blue jeans and a flannel in
all
a
they
tree
do.
stand. They're dropping deer still.
Oh yeah.
I remember hunting with my grandfather, and he brought his buddy along, and we're all this is like late 90s, early 2000s. We're
Yeah.
trying to do the scent control stuff a little bit.
Trying to do the right thing.
Well,
yeah.
his buddy shoots a nice 10-pointer smoking cigarettes. Sitting out on the road.
I've heard,
You know,
I've heard
it's
stories like that many times.
Yep. No, yeah, it happens.
Your buck last year, Ty.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome though.
That's everything's come a long way. Like you were talking about the e-bike, I can imagine.
Well, with me, it had to, because I can't walk and carry
Yeah.
all the
no,
stuff
yeah, I mean,
anymore.
but
No,
it's
I
a
hear
it's
you.
a
But it's a
tool,
nice
though.
it's a nice
tool.
way to get away from everybody. Just hopefully
Quiet.
everybody else doesn't start buying them and doing the same thing.
Right.
But I don't think there's a lot of guys that would still take a bike and go a mile and a half out and then hike 300 yards in hiking
Right.
and then to a tree stand. I
Maybe
don't-
around here.
there are
around,
some, but there's not a lot of guys that are motivated to do it that far.
Right.
no, I hear you. These small pieces just go in, set up.
Yeah, that's
done.
pretty much what a lot of where I have hunted and hook sit with the bow. Previously, I've shot a nice 10 out there, and it took me a long time. I shot a 255-pound bear out there with my bow.
Wow, that's
But
nice.
over the course of 10 years of hunting, now there's 30 something tree stands in there.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
None near where I am, because I'm way the heck in, but they're all over the place.
Right.
I
I see that on social media. As soon as deer season comes, it's like, oh, lost a camera. Oops, someone stole a stand, and I'm like, I have no desire to be so compact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
with
in the
other,
war zone.
other hunters.
Yeah.
That's
War
I know
zone.
it's
is
kind
how
of
you put it.
I'm not saying all these
Oh.
hunters that have the 30 or something plus tree stands in there are in there all at the same time.
no,
but-
no, yeah.
No.
But it changes, and the
too,
big
we're
sheds that you
losing-
saw there, I don't find those anymore in there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't find sheds period in there
We're
anymore.
losing habitat too,
and that's
Right.
the other
it's
thing.
harder
yeah.
to find big pieces
Exactly.
of land that disappear. So you got to share with people.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the thing is you need honest people in there that aren't going to steal cameras or stands or
Exactly.
Not
know,
mess up the
the
woods,
guys
litter
that-
everywhere.
the
you
guys
know,
that
get
think
it
that
posted.
they're not quite so bad, but they just take an SD card out of your camera or
Right.
something.
Yeah.
Come
It's
on.
happened to me once. It was Steve Champion was actually with me when it happened. We were going up looking for some moose antlers, and I said, while we were there, I said, my camera's right over here. I went over, and the card was out. Now, that was the only camera that I didn't have in a bear-proof metal housing.
Ah.
Yeah.
It was locked to the tree, but they took the card out. That's the only time I've
pisses
had,
me
and that
off.
thing was way the heck in.
Really?
Yeah,
My grandfather had a $300 trail camera stolen, not far from here actually, and that was a solid mile and a half walk in too. Walk in into this is an old piece of cover and thick as hell. I don't know how anyone found it honestly.
Yeah. Like you said, a mile and a half in.
In
Number
over
one,
here
who-
and over here, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
but-
No one's
Who's going in the woods that far and then
Right.
happen to find the right tree that the
Right,
camera's
the
on?
I know.
Well,
Unless
Well,
there's sign laid
there was
down.
snow on the ground, and it was later, and it was in December. So I'm
Yeah.
sure
Facts.
there's a lot of guys that
Yeah.
hunt up there in Mount Kearsarge that, and I'm not saying it's
You
any.
want us
it's,
to edit that?
might have just probably said, "Hey, look at this camera here."
We can
now
put
I know.
a
Where,
gobble.
now I know where he
I'll
hunts.
put a beep or a gobble in there if you want. Yeah.
That's the only problem I've had. I haven't had too many people on my camera though, so I've been pretty fortunate with that. But
How many cameras do you run?
I only own 4 cameras, and I only usually run 2 at a time. I've got 4 out right now, but
It seems like you have 3,000 cameras.
No, it's because
Yeah,
I
looking at
spend
your-
every day in
the
every
woods.
single day almost in the woods because of my job. I'm like semi-retired.
Yeah.
I just, I have great locations because when I started hunting at Mount Kearsarge back in 1994. Sorry, everybody. When I started hunting up there, I wanted to get away from hunting locally in Hooksett, Auburn, whatever. I wanted to get in a big piece of woods, and my friend Matt Italia and Mark Edwards invited me up. And the first time I went up there, and Mark's friend of his shot a 9-point buck, 205.
Nice.
Then there was like 5 or 6 of us all up there, and she had this beautiful buck, and it was just incredible. And then so I didn't know the area, so that winter I pretty much found an area, and I just kind of like started scouting up and down and all over the place, and figured this is going to be my piece that I'm gonna, and it was way the heck in.
Yeah.
And the following fall on muzzleloader, the third day, I shot a big 6 183.
Nice.
The first day, the first day right there was pouring. It was
6.
thunder and lightning out, and I had I didn't have any water. I didn't have rain gear or anything, and I had hiked up to this ridge, and it was just pouring the whole day. And I got under this pine tree, and I just sat there all day with my muzzleloader. I had a little plastic bag. I had a Scout carbine, Thompson Center.
Yeah.
I had a little plastic bag over it, and I stayed there all day. And then when I left the hike down, I couldn't cross the brook, whatever it was. I couldn't cross it.
Flooded?
Because
It was raging. And I
shit.
walked downstream, and I found a tree. And, of course, there was no cell phones, and my wife is at home.
Wonder
It's
where
8
you're
o'clock
at.
at night,
Yeah.
wondering, I'm an hour from home already. She's wondering, 8 o'clock, she's like,
Wondering
where am I? And I got across and got to my truck, and the water was up to the bottom rim of my truck. And so,
Holy shit.
yeah, so it was like, it was a little nerve wracking. And then 2 days later on a Monday, a cold front came in, and I got back up. I did the same routine. I looped around, and he came in, and and after I shot, he, smoke cleared, and I didn't see him, and I was walking over there. I couldn't find any blood. And, I'm still kind of a rookie. I had shot a couple of bucks, but I'm not really, the bucks I had shot had dropped, so.
Right.
Also,
I'm
now
like,
it's tracking.
I can't believe, I'm ready to take that gun and wrap it around a tree. How could I miss sitting down? The perfect, the gun, the scope was on and everything, and I just kind of was walking. There was like a little tote road on the shelf up there, and I looked over, and there was probably $50 size bright pink blood. And I was
Nice.
like, "Whoa!"
Here we go.
And
Now,
like
we're onto something.
every like 8 or 9 feet, and then he was just leaned up against a tree, like, and I was like, "Wow." That was like my first big buck, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Wow, what a feeling!"
Yeah, right. Jesus.
But that got me hooked, and
Is that your most memorable hunt, you think?
I had hunts that one of my favorites is actually a 4-pointer up on Kearsarge, what I call the Sat. We now called it Little Buck Ridge. I have some corkers off of that buck on camera, and so I would hike. That's what I was telling you earlier. The easiest way to get up there was to go up the gut of it, because that's the least likely spot that the bucks would go through. They would come up from the east end, or they would come up from this other section through this like little, I call it the canyon. Everybody has names.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So the right side they would come up, we call the escalator, and then the canyon they would come up through that way. So if you went up straight through the gut, you could get up and be right in the middle. And so what I would do is I would leave the house at 4:15 in the morning from Hooksett. I would get there probably 4:30, 20 or 5, take all my clothing, attach it all to the backpack. I didn't even wear gloves, my hat, everything was packed away.
You're gonna be sweating.
I knew.
Yeah.
And so the gun slung over, and I would hike, and I had these spots where I would sit down. There was the stone wall where I'd sit. Then there was the flat spot right before I went up this real steep section. An old skidder road was like this, slippery as heck with the leaves.
Right.
I'd get to that. I'd have to take another stop. Then there was a little dip down where you went downhill, which was nice.
Yeah.
And then it started going back up.
Something
And then
different?
so I had to take 5 or 6 stops. I had to. And it would take me an hour to do it, and I would be drenched. But, you have wick away clothes.
Yep.
I would be drenched when I got to the top, and I would get up there, and I would sit all day long. I wouldn't move. And it's kind of open up in this piece. So this one 4-point buck, it was, not a big rack, but I saw like a scrape, and up on that saddle, there's a shelf, and it narrows down going west. It really narrows. There's a little beach stand, and it just keeps narrowing it to where the widest point is probably 25 feet.
Yeah.
But there's a game trail that comes around there and turns the quarter into the saddle. And I had a feeling that he was up on the point of this one particular ridge, that he was right up there. So I waited all day long, and around 3:30, I made my way up into that little that game trail that went up into that little tight piece, and I sat up against a little, the pines were really small. I just sat in front of it on its little berm. I pulled my fleece wool
So you're
hood
on
over.
the ground.
I'm on the ground.
Yeah.
Most of my bucks that I've shot have all been really close. And I just sat there, and it was supposed to be like a light rain coming in around 4 or whatever. And I look over, and he's walking down the trail. I mean, he's just walking.
Like you thought, coming
Just
straight down.
exactly what I thought, because I knew he was up
It's
on
gonna
that point.
happen.
And there was already a previous scrape, had to be him,
Yeah.
right there. And he came down, and when I say this, I'm not exaggerating, but right where you are is where he turned his shoulder and made the scrape. And
That's
I
6
was like
feet.
this. And it wasn't even 6 feet.
It's 6 feet.
Yeah.
If I took my gun out, I could touch him with the
Yeah.
end of my barrel.
Wow.
And, put it right behind the shoulder and shot him. He ran up about 20 yards, and that was it.
Wow.
And then it started raining. What I usually do is I gather everything together, and I move it 20, 30, 40 yards ahead. Then I drag
Work up to it.
And the coyotes started. And I had a friend that was about a mile away on another ridge, and he actually came over, met me halfway down, but those coyotes weren't that far behind me.
Really?
Yeah, they were all the way down as I'm going down through the gut, and I'm pulling them down.
And they're following you.
They're following me. They're howling and everything, and that was a
Holy
little eerie.
crap.
But that's one of my favorites. Just the way that all played out,
Right.
so close.
I've only had coyotes. Maybe
Yeah, I've never had a really issue with coyotes.
I've had them like yipping on sitting on a bear bait, and I can hear them like probably 70 yards, 80 yards behind me, and that's at the time where I don't know if it's like dusk, it's almost perfect time, but I hear the coyotes. I'm like, I still have a little bit of hike to get out. I
Yeah.
should probably get it going, because
Yeah.
it makes it's not a good feeling.
No, it's not a good feeling. And luckily, my friend came. He actually didn't even know where I was. He had a rough idea where I was, but he met me about halfway, and it was my friend Matt. And it was nice when he showed up, because he started tracking the deer down, and all I had to worry about is the gun in the pack.
Yeah.
But it was nerve wracking. When it's late like that and you're tired,
Right.
Yeah, you just want to get out.
you just want to get out. But I'd rather hunt high and drag down than hunt low and drag out.
Yeah.
What I did last
That's a
fall.
good idea.
It's much easier
I
dragging
gotta
down.
change some stands around.
Oh, that's awesome.
So with I know we've never met, obviously. So
Right.
I've just followed you on social media, and the what got you going on the duck boxes? How'd that all start?
I was the place where I bow hunted in Hooksett. I would walk by, looking for antlers and scouting. Saying we all do the same routine when we're scouting. You're in the same piece. You know where they move.
Yeah.
You know where they're bedding, but you still got to get out there. And I would always see this wood duck box up on this pine tree. And I'm not a duck hunter. I don't know anything about ducks. I couldn't tell you, a mallard from I really don't.
Really?
I don't know anything. Nothing.
That blows my mind.
No, it's
Yeah.
because it's all once I get into something, I get very obsessed, and I really research and
Yeah.
do my homework. But my friend Matt was a big duck hunter, bird hunter, and so I just said to Matt, I go, there's a box out there. It's hanging on this tree, and I remember 25 years ago taking the kids skating on this pond in our neighborhood. That was a little wetland piece, and there was a box in a dead tree, and I remember opening it up, and it had an egg in it, but there was nothing in there. And of course, that tree's gone. That whole, But I remember, and I didn't know what it was then. So here was this box, and so Matt says, "Yeah, the wood ducks." I go, "What's a wood duck?" And
Right.
so I looked it up, and he told me the whole thing about how they, they nest in boxes, and they were almost extinct. They weren't doing well back in the '60s and '70s. So I'm assuming that box was put out sometime between maybe the '80s, or
Yeah.
late '80s, early '90s.
Trying to get them back. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just one box. It was cracked and open, and I took some measurements, and I thought, well, this is kind of cool. I looked it up, and I saw that the chicks jumped. He was telling me the whole thing, So,
Have you seen where they nest in the tall
In the
oak?
trees?
I
And they
actually,
bomb out
Yes.
60
They hit
feet?
the-
I actually
Yes.
saw back where I'm going to put some
I would
boxes
love
next
to
year.
see that.
Bear Brook. I was walking, scouting a new piece, and I looked on the ground, and I see the feathers and the eggs. and I look up, and it had to be 30 feet up. It was a hole, probably from a pileated woodpecker, and it was a wood duck. And I think a raccoon or a fish or raccoon probably went in, pulled it out, killed everything, all the eggs and everything on the ground. So but that's the first time I had ever seen that. But where I worked before, I had a lot of wood, so I decided with that wood to recycle it and make these oversized wood duck boxes that were so heavy and ridiculous. If you've seen them, you don't have no idea how heavy they are. They're like inch and a half thick.
2x12
yeah, they're just crazy big. And but I was just recycling the wood, and I put my first one there with my wife. She actually hiked out, and I had just had surgery 2 weeks earlier on my left knee again, and so we hiked out, snow on the ground, dragging that thing out there. I put it up, and that spring I kept riding my bike out there, hiking down, taking my phone, putting it in the opening, and sometimes she was in, sometimes she wasn't.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I was, I was kind of like monitoring it and picking up ticks on the way in and on the way out.
Yeah.
So I, like that, the weekend before, we took a ride to Cabela's up in Scarborough. Came back, I bought a Browning camera because I wasn't gonna. My Reconics were wherever they were, and I set it up and put it under the tree and set everything up, and came back. Actually happened to be my daughter's birthday. It was May 23rd, and I'm going. And Brownings. I like the cameras, but they just video everything. They constantly video.
Using up a lot of storage.
4 weeks ago, I had 1,300 videos over 2 days.
Wow.
Under a wood duck box. Took me 3 hours to go through everything.
It's just the wind and the
the water temperature, whatever. So that when I did the Browning, I think I had 350 videos over 3 days.
350.
Just in 3 days. But I looked in the box, and I opened it up, and the eggs. And I said, "Oh, I got it on the camera. This is cool."
Right.
And so I went through the camera, and have you ever operated the Brownings?
We
run them. Yes, we
two
do have a
Brownings.
couple. Yeah.
Okay, so when you do the Brownings and you open them up, it says delete one or delete all.
Oops.
You got to be careful of not hitting that delete all. So you got to go really slow. But I was really anxious,
Right.
And I ended up finding the ones where they jumped, and I was like so excited. It was,
Really, that's
great.
awesome.
And from there. That was 2016. We put them out 2017. I've got over 20-something boxes out. Steve Champa's helped me put them out.
That's awesome.
I monitor I'll do them all, but I'll only monitor 7 or 8 with the cameras. You know?
That's awesome.
They definitely made a big
you
comeback.
you go check every
check
box out.
I'll check every.
once
I'll
a
go
year?
from one box to the other. In the wintertime when you can walk on the ice. Most of mine are all because of where they are. They're on the shoreline. I can check those like late in the fall or whatever. I'll put it, but in the winter I'll go out to a couple areas and I'll open them up, see what the ones that I can't monitor during the spring because they're out in the water.
Yeah.
I'll go out, open the box up, check to see the color of the eggs. If they're white, they're mergansers. If they're tan or buff colored, they're wood ducks. And mergansers are notorious for flying in, and when the female wood duck is out, flying in, and she'll lay her eggs in and then fly out. So I 2 of my boxes this year, she raised all wood ducks, all mergansers, and 2 wood ducks hatched.
What?
Now, are they
so wild?
Are they
That's
common
interesting.
mergansers or are those?
They're just
hoodeds?
common. They're the hooded mergansers, I guess.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I do not have a male on my camera at all, and that's what I find is funny because you would think I get all the male wood ducks, and I get every once in a while I'll get a video of the female hanging around the box, so I know what she's doing, but I do not get a male merganser.
A male merganser.
Yeah, like
Have you ever had any golden eyes in there?
no,
None.
never,
Huh?
no.
I know they're a nesting duck too. A golden eye is.
But it's just funny. I have yet in 4 years of doing this, I've yet to see a male merganser in any of the places I have.
So they just when she comes in and the merganser lays her eggs and just takes off and doesn't come back, just lets the wood duck raise her eggs.
Yeah, because they don't know any better. She's just laying on them. When I opened it up a couple weeks ago before they jumped, I think I had 8 or 9
Female merganser leaves.
mergansers and the 2 wood ducks. And that's so most of them jumping out are all mergansers.
No shit.
I saw something recently where there was a common merganser that must have picked up like 2 or 3 extra broods, and she had 53.
Wow,
Holy.
in tow.
I think I saw that. I
53.
think, yes,
I don't know
think it
where I
did say-
saw it, but it was is pretty wild
Yeah.
to see like this giant train of little ducklings.
I don't think the first batch of hatchings made it because I think it was cold.
Yes, we
and
had
I've
that
gone
snow.
back and I have not got, because I'll usually leave a camera in some strategic points where they got to go by. You know, she'll go
Right.
by and you'll see the chicks. You can count them, and they never came by a couple of my spots, and I think it was so cold I don't think they made it.
Yeah.
I've seen some black ducks with only a chick or two.
Only
Yeah. But I've seen geese with a full clutch, 12 or maybe 12 or more.
Really?
Yeah, down over in Alton, there's I almost hit one going to work the other day. She wanted to cross and she turned around and walked back.
Nope.
She had all the little goslings with her.
Got them earmarked for September 1st.
Oh yeah, I know where to hunt those ones too.
No, that's awesome. I'm like, I when you started posting about it, I thought that you were
Yeah, I clicked on that. It was interesting.
like
Shit.
you were, I don't know, like part of DU or
No, I have no interest in duck hunting, and I'm
Yeah.
not against it. I'm all for,
Right.
helping out the duck population, doing whatever you can. I
Yeah.
just find it's something I really enjoy doing it, and building the boxes. And I've given out some boxes. Adam Evans, I gave 2, and then he just posted some videos of.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
And
awesome.
also, and it's a great project for like a father and son.
Right.
Hunters duck hunters, and these little wetland pieces, backwoods pieces that, the sad part is that most people, and maybe it's a good thing, they never get to see these ducks.
yeah.
They're
No.
shy. And
Yes,
you can't
they
even
are.
you cannot get close to these things.
You can hear them whistling.
Yeah.
Oh, the whistling
Yeah.
the whistling is fantastic, but I can never get near them.
Right.
I always want to get like a nice photo of one, but
They're tough.
they're
we
really.
should do that out back here, Ty.
Yeah,
I got some
that's what I was
recycled wood
thinking.
from work, and
Have any of you ever shot?
oh yes, I've shot
Wood duck?
plenty of wood
And
ducks.
is it
Yeah,
tough?
too.
They're hard to shoot.
They're hard to shoot.
They leave early too. That's the other
They're
thing.
early. They come in pretty
Run by
much
the
at
moon.
legal light or just before legal light. So they're an early flyer, and then they're erratic flyers.
Randomly, you'll have a single or double come in. Or
And they're not super fast, but they're faster than a mallard, and they fly erratic, so they're pretty tough to hit.
Now, are you
but-
in a ground blind or a duck boat, or how? I don't know anything about duck
No.
hunting.
Yeah, so many different ways.
so many different ways.
a
What's
lot
the
of-
best way of hunting them?
Jump shoot, I think.
Find where they're at.
Yeah.
Find where they're at, and then either if you set up decoys for them, you got to be ready super early. So like a jump shoot can be good because you're shooting them in the daytime where you're seeing them.
or where they're
I
laid
like-
down and you can actually, bump them up, flush them like
Yeah.
grouse, and shoot them that way.
Right. So I like hunting them over decoys.
Yeah.
Try to find a piece of water that's got overhanging oaks.
Yeah.
Where those oaks are hanging over and dropping acorns in the water, especially if there's submerged logs or barely
Risen up, yep.
barely out of the water, rocks or vegetation where you can't really see the water's edge right there. That's where they're going to be because they're hiding in that grass edge and they're eating the acorns. If you set up in those spots, you got to be ready to shoot early. Sometimes you're shooting at shadows on the water, kind of. They.
I didn't even
They
know
fly
they ate
early.
acorns until
Oh,
he had
yeah.
told me that, and I says,
And-
"What?" He goes, "Yeah, they're a perching duck, really, and
Yep.
they eat acorns." And I was like, "So, the more I read about it and everything, the more fascinated I was with them. And being that it's pretty easy for me to do what I'm doing, it's just a lot of fun for me to get out there and help them
That's
out.
awesome.
And they're
And,
preferable to eat over just about
Yes.
anything.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
asked
They're-
some
agree.
duck hunters about that.
Yeah,
and they
number
all
one
said
on
the
my
same thing.
list.
Really?
Me too.
Yeah. Just based on size and taste,
Yeah.
they're phenomenal.
Oh.
Teal, I would say you get just a little bit better taste out of them, but
And you can
it's-
pluck that whole bird. And
But it's about the size of a woodcock.
Yeah.
A teal's tiny. First time I shot a teal and brought it home that my wife saw, she got all upset at me. She goes, "You shot a baby. Why did you shoot a baby duck?" I'm like, "No, that's a full-grown duck. Look at the red eye stripe on the green head, But yeah, wood ducks are great to eat. If you ever want to try. Oh, it sounds like you know where they're at.
I know where they're at.
we can bring you to a spot and set you up.
Maybe we should go duck hunting with Mike.
Yeah.
If you ever want to learn,
the first year putting the camera there, I think I only had like a male and a female, maybe 2, and now you see my videos and there's like 5, 4, 5. So it's helped. So it's I've got 9 out in one area right now. We put 2 in another little swampy piece, but I can't get out to check them until the winter. But I did see last week or the week before, I did see her in there with some chicks, so I know it's going to be one of those 2 boxes in that
Right.
piece.
What do you think?
Yep.
Do you maybe like just throwing up a box on a tree? What makes them flood to that? Do you know, or is it just
They nest in tree cavities.
I know they do
and
that,
so the
but-
box, especially if the
Box.
box is over water, it's just a natural attraction. If you see my videos, the first time they discover the box, they're like, they're just like, this is it. This is my box.
King shit. Look
Yeah,
at this
look
place.
at this place.
Yeah.
And my box. I've now taken the box. Someone from Massachusetts won 2 Ducks Unlimited boxes about 3 years ago, and because they saw my video, he wanted to give them to me. He says he has no use for them, so he gave them to me, and those boxes are really the perfect size.
Are they compact more than
Yeah,
your
and so
boxes?
what I
Yep.
did is I took the measurements off of it, and then I went to a place in Plastow and bought 1 by 10 foot
Boards.
rough pine.
Yep.
But there's very little knots in these boards I was buying, and so the Ducks Unlimited boxes were slightly smaller, and they were cedar. They were like 9 inches square, but mine are like 10 instead. But I took all the dimensions and made them exactly to that dimension of that box, and that's what I'm making them now. And my side panels, where I used to make the side cut off, you just remove it. All my side panels now flip up, so you can just clear
Nice.
everything out. And
Okay.
I use wire mesh
idea.
inside with roofing nails. I attach it in there to hold the ladder for them to get out. And I always try to find a tree that's slightly tilted to the water, because that makes it easier for the chicks to climb out.
Have you ever fooled around with doing mallard houses? With
Corey
like-
Cheever, I'm friends with, had sent me directions about that. He's a big duck hunter up from Vermont, and he had sent me directions or plans to do that. And I think I'm going to do that, because this place would be a perfect spot, because it's away from everything, and I'd like to try that. So that's probably going to be my next project.
That'd be awesome to try out.
Yeah,
I would honestly
I've
like
never
to get
seen
into
a
some of
mallard
this
house.
too. I work with a lot of wood, like I told you before, and I can get a lot of recycled wood. So even though it won't be your ideal cedar that you would like to have, but
Just pine. What I do with the boxes is I put roofing shingles in the top. 'Cause,
Yep.
If you start from the top down, like a regular house, that protects the box with rain and everything. I put cedar shavings inside instead of. They have like a sawdust, but I like the cedar shavings.
yeah, I like that.
They don't attract moisture as much as like sawdust, and I make it about maybe 5-6 inches deep. What I like about the Ducks Unlimited boxes is where the hole is mounted, and the depth of the box makes it a little bit harder for a raccoon, if he could get to the box,
Reach his
to
hand
reach in and grab. So they're a little deeper than some of the boxes with people make them a little shallower. It's just I try to come up with little different ways of making it. Each box I made is a little bit better than the next box. But I found some older boxes, and I'm removing the metal plates from those older boxes that were built like 30 years ago, and I'm going to reattach some of those to some of my boxes now that might prevent the mergansers from getting in the box, because those holes are smaller than my holes that I made.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That
So
makes sense.
That might help.
Do you
know.
date any of your boxes? Or you?
My wife actually made a couple plaques with the date of
I
my
think
first
that'd be
2
awesome.
boxes.
I think that would be cool.
Yeah, and I haven't put them on my first 2. One of them I'm going to have to remove, because that one's on an island, and the squirrels keep, I think, getting in there, because I
Oh,
keep
really?
finding acorns in there. One of the problems I have in the winter, and I just figured this out the year before last, is that flying squirrels were nesting in them.
Yep.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and then they just fill up with droppings,
whatever.
and then once
Yeah.
it fills up, they leave. So now I take pieces of plastic, I nail it over the opening.
Got a nice house. You're gonna shit it all
Yeah,
up.
it's awful. And so that now I cover the openings in the fall of all the boxes that I can on shoreline, and that takes care of that problem.
I just saw, not just, but a while ago, you posted a story about the older gentleman that saw you hanging a box up and thought maybe that you worked for Ducks
Oh yeah,
Unlimited.
he's still sending me the blogs every day.
Is he really?
Oh yeah, we
That's
we
awesome.
keep in contact. Yeah,
Well, can you go over that story in case anybody missed it? Maybe.
Yeah, well, Steve Champa brought me out to a piece, and that he wanted to put wood ducks. He duck hunted this piece, and
Yeah.
he wanted to keep it secret, and that was no problem. But so we went out there. I had
We'll have to talk to him about that.
I think I think we had 4 boxes. He said there were 2 out there already, but when we walked out, the boxes that were out there were in really bad shape.
Yeah.
So we put 2 out. We went out again and put 2 more. I think we did 4. I think now with Carl's, what's it Carl's? I can't think of his name. I think we have 5 now. His is on the shoreline. But when I was out there, I was going out to check and remove all the shavings. It was a perfect day to do that. And he saw me and he was like beside himself. He's coming over to me and he goes, "Thank you." He's like, "Thank you. Thank you. You with Ducks Unlimited or the Audubon Society?" And I go, "No, I'm not. We put these boxes out here and I'm just checking them. Can I follow you around?" He had a camera and I was, so I'm explaining
How old
to him.
was this guy?
He was going to be 79.
Wow.
So,
That's pretty cool.
So he followed me each box. We checked. I showed him, that this box here looked like they had mergansers or white eggs. Cleaned it out. We put the shavings in. I says, he explained to me where he lived and what he does with another friend. And I says, if you come out here, his name's Bill. I says, if you come out here, Bill, if you have some caulking or whatever, you might want to fix, some of my boxes. You maybe want to fix a little crack here and, just patch it up if you get a chance. But so a couple weeks later, somebody gave me a box, 2 boxes, and I had, I didn't know where to put these boxes, so I had an idea, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to carve his name in the front of this box, and I'm going to give it to him for his birthday. I'm going to put it up for him. So I emailed him, and we met. And when I went to meet the retirement community where he lives, they took, had somebody take pictures of all of us. And then we hiked out, and I brought the jet sled. I carried everything out, and they came down, and they helped a little bit,
Right.
He was 79, and
I think that's
so
nice.
that made me
awesome.
feel good. I've always had a great respect and for older people,
Yeah.
and he had lost his wife, I think 11 years earlier, so it was nice to, and he'll be able to put his camera right there, and his blog goes out every day. I read it every day, and I'll send him photos of what I've got going on. And I'm very happy to see, the stuff that's going on in that area.
Yeah. So it's by a community, or I don't know if we want to get into too much
Because of
specifics.
Champa's sake.
Yeah,
Yep.
because Champ is. But so he's in a community where
he
can watch
He
it
can
every
walk
day?
right there. He does every
Okay,
single day.
cool.
He does
Mhm.
his blog every single day. He takes photos, and he's very articulate, and he's very detail oriented. He points things out, like he just had a fawn on there, and in the background you see something else, and he's pointing that out with a little
And he
arrow.
writes about this?
Writes about it. Beautiful, beautiful blog to the community where he stays.
Yeah.
So the people that are on it get an update
That's
every day.
so awesome.
So we keep
Now,
in
when-
touch.
When you're in these wood duck swamps, are you ever getting videos of moose, in and around the edges? And
Well, if you saw one of my videos of 3 or 4 weeks ago, the black bear, you didn't see that?
no.
That was a really unexpected.
When he was scratching, was it that one?
No, so I had my last duck box that jumped.
Yeah.
I had been monitoring that, and that's the one that had the mergansers and that one Steve Champa and I put out last April. We took a canoe out to get it out there. It was a lot of fun doing that. So that was the last box that I had that I was able to monitor with the camera of all the other boxes I had.
Yeah.
But to get to that box, hiking through the woods,
It'd be a
I
nightmare.
bring a lint roller because the
Yeah.
ticks are so bad.
Oh,
I
really?
hate.
Wow.
I actually hate going out to it. I hate. I just, no matter how many I get on the lint roller, I get back to the truck and they're still crawling on me.
You know what? That's a good idea. Lint roller.
Yeah,
I've never even heard of that.
I'd have 10,
honestly.
15 on there, and they'd still be crawling on me. But I would.
Wow.
So I went out and I take a picture. Sometimes, if they're in the nest and you put the camera in the hole, if they're a bird that had probably previous nesting, they don't usually fly out. When they're incubating those eggs, they're
They huddle
incubating.
right
They're
down.
not.
Yep.
She'll look up at me, and I can see it on the camera, but she's not taking off. So
Like
I know
a-
it's good.
Broody hen, almost like a chicken. Almost.
Yeah,
So
she's
they
not
just don't
leaving
wanna-
that. She's not
Whoa,
leaving that
yep.
nest, and so I knew that they were going to hatch in this certain time period. So I went back, and I put the camera in there, and I could see the eggs. I go, all right. So as I opened up I'm going through the videos and everything. I see this thing coming through the water, and my eyesight is not very. I wear reading glasses, but my eyes I can't see up close.
Yeah.
So I can't. I'm going. Oh, I got a moose coming through the water. Well, this is great. I mean, you never.
that
And
video.
so I got home. I was all
Yes.
excited. I go, I get my first moose of the season in the water. This is crazy. And I get it up on my laptop, and it's a black bear struggling to get through. Now, You guys, as duck hunters in these backwoods, these wetland pieces, know very well if you're wearing waders, it's not easy to walk through that stuff.
You get some
not at
stumps
all.
and
Rivers, yeah.
Oh my God, it's
Sometimes
awful.
you get stuck. And
You get stuck.
or you hit a sinkhole, or
Yeah. So if you see
Or
the bear,
catch some roots.
Yeah.
yeah,
get your
roots,
ankle hung
old
up.
trees that have fallen down, it's awful.
I've been up to my chest a couple times.
It's
Yeah.
scary. But
Hunt
if
the-
you see that
hunt the
bear, he's
seacoast
struggling.
mud.
Oh, that seacoast mud is terrible on the coast.
So he was just struggling to get out of that stuff to the shoreline, so that was a pretty cool video.
I'm trying to look for it right now.
It was probably a couple
Did
weeks
you
ago.
post it on your personal page?
I did it. Yeah, I do it. I posted like 3 or 4
Okay.
different sites.
That's pretty cool, though. Get a black bear. He was swimming across
Wasn't
that.
expect-
He was
March?
trying. He was really struggling. He was
Oh,
trying to.
okay.
He wasn't
Then
having
there
an
was
easy
that-
time.
Hopping like a
It's
dog.
so crazy. You put you put a camera there expecting, trying to capture the ducks.
The ducks,
flying
which
down.
is
But you
jumping
come in
down,
like I saw one, and you're like, oh, I didn't even see that snake because I was like, oh, there's an
You,
anaconda
yeah,
there.
you're the one that pointed out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even see that.
There's like a duck's going by, and then a snake's like, shh. I'm like,
I'm glad you
"Whoa!"
pointed it out. I don't
Snake
think I would have
chasing the
ever
duck,
seen that.
Or was it?
No, they had nothing to do with each other. They just
okay.
the snake
Just
came through and
different video.
he had pointed it out, and I swear I would have never seen that. Because I'm always looking at the other ducks.
Oh man, that bear is. You're right.
See how he's struggling?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
he's moving at a good clip though.
Yeah.
Oh,
And where he is, it's crazy. I still can't even figure out where he was coming
so
from.
wild.
You know,
He is struggling. He is
because he would be struggling
Yeah.
the whole way,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a long way, like
When he's
in that
jumping
piece.
out of the water like
Yeah,
that,
like
just
a
trying to-
dog,
just
like
trying
a
to
dog.
free
Trying
his
to,
legs up.
yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. You don't see that.
Well,
I've
that's what I'm
seen-
saying is like randomly
some
you'll
cool
get
stuff.
you got the stump camera that I like. Did you post a picture of the moose with the broken?
yeah,
like
today I
today?
did them.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly, that just really saddens me because
I hate seeing shit
he's
like
in
that.
really rough shape.
Yeah, he's
He's
not.
not going to make it. You
You'll
know,
get an
and
infection or something.
he
How
looks
many-
like he's got a lot of tick and sores on the back end of him too.
How
you
many
know.
moose have you found this year so
This
far?
year 2.
Two dead.
Last year
Yeah.
3.
Wow, they're taking a brutal beating.
Yeah, and and the thing is,
and that's without hunters too.
It used to be back up there, back in when I first started in '94 up there to 2005, 2006. It would be nothing for me to go up there in the winter or spring and pull out 8 or 10 moose antlers. In fact, I would get more bull moose on my cameras than deer, by
Really?
far. I started off with a cutty back in when they first came out, 2000, 99, 2000, 2001. And you remember was it D batteries or whatever you had
I
on
still
there?
have one.
You still
My
have one?
grandfather got
So-
one back in the day.
it
like
takes
you're
like
saying.
16 of them.
Yeah, it takes 6 of them.
Oh, this didn't take 16.
Or no, it takes 6 of them.
I
It's
think it was
or no,
6. Four,
Yeah, it
Got
was either
a Moultrie.
4 or
Looks like
something, and they only lasted
The thing
3
was
weeks.
huge.
They were
Yeah, the
filmed.
thing
giant
was
brick
huge.
of batteries.
So I was thrilled to get this camera. This is like technology
Yeah.
for me back
In the
then.
2000, yeah.
This is great. So I would hike up. My wife would come with me. We had a bug baffler, and we would hike up to this particular ridge, in the spring, and I would set the camera up just with a strap, and point it over here, and then I'd come up 2 weeks later, and I'd go to the camera, and of course you don't know what you have on there,
Right.
so I'd put another roll in, and back then they had 1 hour photo development, so we had a 45-minute hike to get there.
I can't even imagine.
So we'd hike all the way back down, change the camera. I don't know what we have on there.
Right.
I go to, whatever it is, Rite Aid or CVS, drop it off, come back an hour later, and I look, and I got this stupid branch waving like this.
no.
24 pictures that right after I left.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. So the next day, that was a Saturday. Sunday, I'm back up there,
Breaking
and,
the branch.
breaking the branches and doing, and this went on for like through the spring until I finally realized I got to point it north because the sun coming up triggers the camera, and
it
then
used
I
to
got
be
all
all of that
sunrise
stuff.
all
of
these
that.
things that it was like driving you
Yeah.
nuts. I finally got pretty much. I left the camera there, so I was getting like bear. I got a deer. I was getting some good photos, but I still getting the problem with the sun and other things. But
Yeah.
so this one time we both went up. It was towards the end of July, and I had in the camera I had a roll of 36. I'd never done a 36, but that's what I had left. So I put it in there, And we hiked down, and like at this point, I had cleared all the ferns out of there. There was nothing that could trigger this camera. So I came back 3 weeks later, and I still, you don't, like you said, you open it up, change the roll, and you go have it 1 hour. Well, that day, I didn't bother with the 1 hour. I just said I'll pick it up the next day. So I picked it up the next day, and I open it up, and I'm looking at the photos, and I got this giant bull moose sitting in front of my camera watching these other 2 bull moose fighting.
Wow.
And it's the last 13 photos of that 36 roll.
Yeah.
I sent it in the Cuddy back, and then the guy contacted me. I had won their first photo contest.
That's awesome.
No shit.
So they took the bull moose that were fighting, and they put it on the pamphlet that you bought the camera the next year, and it was on the box.
Do you have the box?
No, I don't have the box.
Oh.
I still have the pamphlet, which I posted
Yeah.
before on the site.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. That the 2 bull moose fighting, and I didn't find any of their antlers.
No, really?
And one of them, I found one of them in the real thick pines, which is you're always learning. You got to go into those dense
Oh, you
pines.
gotta.
We can roll right into shed hunting.
Yeah.
Because your plate says antlers.
Yeah, that's been on there since '97. She bought it, and it's not because I was shooting bucks. It was because I was like obsessed with finding antlers. That was
Yeah.
more important to me than hunting. And she did that for my, I think it was my 40th birthday.
Yeah.
So that's how the plate came on there, and it's still on there today, which is probably a bad thing now.
Yeah, everyone's gonna be following you around.
Everybody,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
Yeah.
But I thought it was pretty nice that she did that for me.
Explain the sheds you brought over. Those are amazing.
So those
are
were
sweet.
that was a new piece. I had back then. There was one of the largest deer yards in the southern part of the state, and I was into that yard looking for antlers. And I was, it was a new piece of woods, but I hadn't gone into that side. I had been in this other side looking, and this one particular day, it was the end of April, I crossed over a snowmobile trail, and I just, like, head down like you always do, and, you're just scanning.
Yeah.
And I was just walking. I had never been in this piece, but it was still early in the morning, and all of a sudden I just walked into the 5 points, or this side. This is the first one, and this is the one closest to us. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I picked it up, and now my first thought is I have to find the other side of this. And so I spent the rest of the afternoon doing these circles. There's a lot of white oaks in there, so I continued to do these circles. And by the time I got out of the woods, the sun was setting, and I was wiped. I had a long, I'll take a 2-mile hike to get back to the truck.
It's a good hike.
And I was tired. I mean, really physically tired. And I was in good shape, but really physically and mentally tired. And I couldn't sleep that night. And I asked my wife to go with me the next morning. And
more eyes in the
reluctantly, she, so I tried to get her out of the house like at 5:30, but that wasn't happening. I think we got out there around 7:38. And we went back out, and we hiked all on the other side of this piece, up and down. And it was like around maybe 11:30 noon. And I hadn't found it. And I was like pretty depressed. I was like, I can't believe, where did this buck with this big, massive antler on one side, where did he drop the other side? I mean, and so I dropped her off at home. I went to Riley's, and you probably don't know, the manager at the time was Denver Woodcock, this great hunter. And, he, kind of in a way, a good mentor. I used to go and see him every Friday night for like forever, for like 10 years. I'd pick his brains and everything. And he was like, he saw the shit and he goes, "Oh my God." So I says, "I'm going back out, and
I'm gonna find this.
I'm gonna find this other shed." So I headed out, and I parked in a different area, and I came in from a different spot. I just said, I'm gonna just. So as I'm walking in this new piece, I find half of a 10-point shed, but it wasn't from that year, that winter. It was like from last year, but it wasn't touched. So I started like looking for the other side of that, and I wait a minute, got to find the other side of this thing, because that one wasn't even close. So I started heading in, and I got to this. I call it's like an enclosed swamp, is all I can say. It's a couple acres, and I remember walking in there earlier on this particular side. The sun was hitting on this embankment, and I remember finding the remains of a dead deer, and so I thought, maybe this winter, maybe this is where he was, but it was so thick, and where you see the bear, where the bear video was.
Yeah.
It's right in that general area, so it's water, all open, and then really thick, and then it comes out to where I found the other antler. So I knew that if I go this way and through that thick stuff, it's a shortcut to get to the other side, and then I could start looking again. So as I get into the thick stuff, I take one step over this down tree, and there's the other side laying right there.
Holy
and the
crap.
thickest, nastiest stuff nobody would ever find it. And it was
Are
just
you giving
pure luck.
invisible high fives in the woods? To
Oh,
people?
I was like, I could not believe.
Hooting and
What are the
hollering.
chances?
Yeah.
What are the chances of going? Like taking that route.
Yeah, exactly.
You
You
know,
would never
I
gone that
wouldn't-
way.
I had never gone that way. I never even
Resistance.
think of going that way.
Yeah.
Right.
But I just thought I don't want to walk around this whole thing again. You know.
Yeah.
Then I'm back on the other side where I've been looking for the last 24 hours. You know, haven't found anything. So, and that was just like crazy. And I took a good photo of it, and it made the front page of the Hawkeye News.
They're
And,
huge. They're massive.
Yeah,
Like,
post a picture up.
Any
Those are
shed,
giant.
any
Yeah, those are
deer.
nice
I haven't
deer.
shot big deer or no big deer, but like any sheds that I have one big shed, and those things make
what-
it look like
Yeah,
nothing.
dink, yeah.
One is 70. I think the closest one to us is 71, and the other one is close to 75.
Jesus.
You know, so you
Wow.
figure it's like 146
75.
with deductions. You put an 18-inch spread. You know, it's a 160 plus inch buck that was
a
roaming
good
In New
buck.
Hampshire.
In New
in New Hampshire.
How long ago was
That's
that?
Boone and, that's Boone and
2001.
Crockett.
Yeah.
2001, Boone and
That's
Crockett.
Boone and Crockett.
What's Boone and Crockett for New
160.
Hampshire? 160 is?
So it's a 160 minimum.
And a friend of mine the following year,
Wow.
maybe I don't know if it was 2 miles away, he shot a 195-pound buck. I forget what that. I think his buck nets in the 150s, and it
Yeah.
was crazy high. It was an incredible buck, and he shot it with his bow like at 10 yards. He was actually the guy that used to butcher my deer, and but it didn't have that kind of shape. So there were two massive bucks running out there.
G1s are just under 13 inches. Crazy. Huge.
And I've never found another antler out there. I found some antlers out there, but
Yeah.
I haven't found an antler out there, and probably and that's nothing like that.
Yeah.
Not even close. Just small stuff now.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm even lucky.
That deer had bayonets for 4 tines.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I know.
daggers,
That's
dude.
The funny thing is, when I didn't even hunt there after I found those, because there was an older tree stand that was in there, because that was way in, and to get in there it was really difficult. And I figured I hiked all the way in there and hung a stand, but not where I wanted to hunt. There was a tree stand in this general area, and I figured the guy that I didn't know if he was a bow hunter or a gun hunter, I didn't want to bother that area, so I didn't really hunt it until 2007. So it was like 6 years before I went in there, and that tree stand that was there was falling apart, and obviously nobody was going that far in a bow hunt. But
They're huge.
I don't even know what to do. I would.
if you're a shed hunter, everybody looks for
I
a
know.
holy grail of
Yeah.
Right.
of
Yeah.
antlers,
And that's the one right
That's
there.
one of them.
I would have
mean,
built a tree house in there. I never would have left.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
uh,
Moose antlers. I've seen a picture with you with moose sheds piled all in front of you.
Yeah, but there are guys on that page that would make that.
No, I know.
You know, I mean, those
Yeah.
guys are crazy. With me, it's from one mountain, and it's
They're
something
all
that-
from
just
one area.
Yeah,
No
one
shit.
area.
That's cool,
yeah.
though.
Wow.
And that's all I care. I'm not interested in going into other areas looking for them. I just look in that particular area, and back in that time period, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Finding them, and I remember one time I had my ATV, and I came into I think 7 laying like in an area this big, and piled them up
What?
on my brand new ATV. Yeah,
7
strapped
of
them down. 7 antlers, and I couldn't match them up. I couldn't even match them up.
Really?
I don't know if there were
That's
more,
great.
but I piled them all up, and it was like I had been looking for. And I
Time
actually,
to go home.
Yeah, I come back.
Right.
I've been looking all over the place, for
Yeah.
them, and then all of a sudden I just come into this one area. They're all over the place.
Wow.
And I came back, I think a week later with a friend, we found a half-chewed spike horn. And then I wish today, I was so close to finding this. It was a massive 10-point buck, both sides. I mean, mass.
Yeah.
Thicker than those. No time length,
Yeah. But
but
just
the
mass.
mass was crazy, and they were chewed. And I was so close, probably within 40 yards of them. And because the moose antlers, I wasn't even. It was a new piece too, and I always think, I would have loved to seen that buck.
Yeah.
It was a big massive.
giant. Jesus Christ.
But these bucks are way up on a lot of these ridges. They don't, they.
Is there any rhyme or reason, or
I think a lot of bucks that are up and around the regions up on those ridges travel probably 15, 20 miles. I mean, big loops.
Yeah.
I think there are some up there that stay I don't want to say locally they have a big route, but they're more, and that's kind of their territory. But there's some that pass through. A lot of the bucks you see on my camera, they're passing through.
Yeah.
They're not around there. I never find their antlers.
They're just one or twice, one time.
Yeah,
2 times a year?
I think some of the bucks, most of the bucks I think you see up there are your standard 8, a 9. I think I've seen a couple 10s, but they're all your basic. There's nothing fancy about them. They're
Right.
all
Probably
your
just
basic
all
ridge
those
runners.
3-year-old deer or
But the
4-year-old deer.
The one thing up there is that I've shot a 5.5, a 6.5, and a 7.5-year-old bucks up there. So they live longer up there because it's the bigger the woods, the bigger the
Right.
territory,
Yeah.
the longer they get to live and move about.
That's the hard part. Is just trying to pinpoint when that's gonna.
Well, that's what I try to do. I instead of I'm not a good shot. I can't. I could never shoot a deer if it's running. I'm terrible.
Yeah.
So my thing is that I know from back in 94, 95, where my wife had bought me snowshoes. That's how I got to learn the mountain, by snowshoeing every weekend, and I still do it every
That's
weekend.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for 25 years up there. I snowshoe Saturday
You
and
probably know
Sundays.
that place like the back.
I know.
Of your
I've been
hand.
around.
Yeah.
So when I first started, you're worried about getting when in the spring when you're hiking, you get your compass and you want to make sure you're not going to get lost, which you can't. But
Yeah.
and then in the wintertime, you just snowshoe and you just kind of learn where they're moving abouts, and you're looking for antlers, and eventually, it's just you figure out where
Everything comes together.
where I have 3 or 4 or 5 different spots so I try to get to those spots, and hopefully I'll intercept him coming through. I don't try not to place my cameras in some of those spots
Yeah.
so that it's a surprise, like I'm there and he's never
Right.
seen anybody
No scent
sitting
in
there. There's no scent.
Yeah.
The wind direction. The saddle is a great place because I'm coming up through the gut, and if they're coming up from the backside, they have no clue that I'm there. The
Yeah.
wind is in my favor. I'm looking and scouting like in September. If he's coming up on opening, and I haven't been up there since opening, since September, and I go sit up there on opening day, I'm hoping he's coming up from the other side,
Right.
and
You're just
coming
gonna
across,
Yep,
and
you'll
I'm
be
gonna
there to cut them off.
cut him off, and he's not gonna. He has no clue that I'm
Right.
there, and that's what you kind of want. That's how I hunt. I mean, everybody's different. I could never track. I couldn't track in the snow. I can't concentrate like on a set of tracks, and I'm always worried that I'm going over the next ridge and some other guy's going to shoot it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
just bumped him up.
Because you need where I hunt. It's big, but
Not big enough.
it's Well, back in the '90s, it seemed like there was a guy behind every tree, and no matter
Wow.
where the heck I was on a ridge.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was. You'd hear shooting all day long.
Yeah.
How is it now? How is it transformed to
I
now?
think there's some guys up there that hunt. They're locals. They hunt, but they hunt in different areas.
But you're pretty much by yourself up there.
I'm
most
pretty
of the
much
time?
by myself. Back in '97, I went to
Not anymore.
Nope.
Back in '97, I went to Pittsburgh, and I was lucky to shoot a buck in its bed.
That's awesome.
And it was freezing cold, and it was luck. And I had hunted the 2 weeks before at Kearsarge. I didn't even see a deer, and there was snow on the ground. It was awful. I think I put so much pressure on myself that I wasn't even enjoying hunting. I was like obsessed because I wanted to shoot a 200-pound buck like most of my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's what I get. Like, this is
you
so
know-
stupid. Why are we doing this?
I know it's like I so I,
shot that spike.
Back up
I
the
came
next
home.
Yeah, exactly.
I came home the following week, and I went up to this particular ridge in the morning. It had fresh snow, probably 7-8 inches light, and I got up into this bowl and then got behind this blowdown with my bow. And I waited and waited. I thought maybe I'd get one of them up. All these guys would be up there. I thought that morning everybody would be up and pushing deer around, and I'd get a chance. And nothing happened. So I was like, "Where is everybody? My friends are supposed to be up there." So I worked my way out of that bowl, and I went west up over this ridge and started coming down. And I saw a pile of tracks going over this stone wall over this ridge. And so I just took a couple steps over the ridge, and as I'm looking down, I know it was really windy. The west was coming out of the northwest. And as I'm
cold.
looking kind of down, the hemlocks, everything's blowing around. I don't know if it was 80, 90 yards or whatever. I see this like brown patch, and I had these little binoculars. But how when the wind's blowing in your face, your eyes are
Oh, yeah.
watering, and I've got
And you
these trying
got
to,
your bow, right?
I've got my bow, and
Got your bow?
I'm like looking like through those little
Yeah.
tiny binoculars, and I
And
was
the
like,
wind's freezing your eyeballs.
yeah, and it's like that's a deer, and now I'm thinking like it's bedded,
Yeah.
and my worry now is like I hope my friends and all these other hunters are not on this piece because I might have a chance. So I started working my way down a little bit, and then I had to crawl. So I ended up. I remember this. It was 9:00 in the morning, and I started crawling on my belly, and I was like moving around dead stuff and dead trees and limbs and rocks, and I'd take the binoculars every once in a while and I'd try to see it. And then I finally saw one side. He had at least he was an 8-pointer or a 4 on one side. And I was like, oh, this is unbelievable. Like, I think this is going to happen, with a bow from the ground. And so I just, slow as could be, picking my way down. It took forever. And I could see at about 20 yards, there was this big boulder, and it like a little depression like that. And I pushed the bow up a little bit ahead, and I just kind of crawled, and I kind of slid down like an otter right to the rock with my bow.
You're going to be quiet.
This buck, I had seen this buck once get up and turn and move because of the wind. So I saw him actually turn around, and he was laying like this, like his legs out. And so he had never scented me, and I'm thinking like,
how long was this going on?
This is
when you got to the rock.
So when I got to the rock, and I leaned my back up against the rock, took my hat off, and I looked at my watch, and it was noon. So I had done this for 3 hours.
Holy crap.
And I'm not making...
How many yards have you gained on him in 3 hours?
I think I just did like the 90 yards or whatever. It took me that long because I never felt cold. I had some wool on, but
your adrenaline's going.
My mind was so focused on this buck. And he was laying there, and I was behind the rock, and I knocked the arrow, and I was like, please. Take some deep breaths. Please, yeah. Oh, God. I was like, so I...
3 hours.
I popped up, and as I looked over the rock, he was looking right at me. Oh, because I had forgot with the wind swirling and everything, and his scent, his nose. It's it's like
you didn't see anything coming there, and all of a sudden,
and he was looking right at me and did one of these things where he bluffed me, like he put his head down and brought it up to see if I. So I just kind of brought my head down real slow, and I said, "Well, the only way I can do this is I can't really shoot over this rock. I got to go to the side of the rock." And so I just took I took a few seconds, and I got to figure out what I got to do. So I moved over to the side of the rock, and I went to get up with the bow to draw, and I think it was a hemlock. I don't remember what it hit me in the head and knocked me back down. So I was in the crouching position, and he was quartering away, like going like this, away walking, and I drew back, and I was trying to put it behind the shoulder, and I could see my arrow was going exactly where I put it, but he was walking, and then I see it hit the elbow and stuck him in the elbow, and he took off, and about 30, 40 yards later, my arrow was sticking up in a down tree. The broadhead was just poked in straight up, and all I had was little drops of blood. So I ended up following him. I came into a group of does that were all bedded, which is kind of funny. They were all bedded, and I walked by them. They're like, they didn't know what the hell was going on.
From?
Really?
Yeah, I was like, they didn't even, they got up afterwards. They're like, what the heck?
Excuse me, ma'am. I'm just trying to
Your mail's over here.
I saw him running on the ridge above, and he only had to drop like every 20 or 30 yards, just a little pin drop. And I ended up, there was a tote road, and my friend Matt was in the pickup truck, and he was sleeping. And I remember, so I went over to Matt, and I says, Matt, I just shot a buck. I hit him in the, the elbow, in the bone. And Matt, he was sleeping in the truck, and so we started following him. He had his gun.
So you hit him in the leg.
I hit him in the leg, like in the elbow area. Shit. If he hadn't been,
not in the shoulder, not in the shoulder.
No,
blade.
just like right here.
No shit. So
like in the tricep.
Yep.
And it was like, so we followed him because Matt had the gun, and he was a nice buck. And we went past him once because he jumped off the trail. We came back because I'm looking at the tracks.
Yep. He's smart.
Came back, and then he came to a stream, and there was no tracks on the other side of the stream.
He walked
up the stream for about 50 yards, and then there was a major crossing there, and that's where I lost. There was no more blood.
Right.
And he was smart enough to elude us after that. But
got that water on his leg.
But the stream, that's the stream. That's not the stream I have my videos, but that's my thought process of getting photos and videos years later of finding stream crossings where
because
I saw where they were crossing.
Yeah.
And that was my thought process of putting a camera on a stream or getting videos, was that when they come to a stream, they're very cautious. So you're going to get great photos or great videos because you don't know if they're going to jump, they're going to wade, but it gives you great photo opportunities, and it also gives you great opportunity if you got a bow or a gun, because they don't, they got to think for a second. You
Right.
know?
I've been watching your stuff now that you've been saying this
Well-
for like 3 or 4 years now. I'm like thinking, oh, wait a second, I've seen those videos. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
well, I'm
oh,
just thinking about
I just
a
put it
spot
together. And
now
I'm like,
that I'm thinking of. I'm like,
what, the streams?
yeah, I'm like, I need to change something up, I think.
The only problem with it is if you're sitting and that water's running, you got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the only bad part is that you can't hear, which is what I love.
Right.
If you're sitting on a ridge and you hear them coming up,
Right.
but when you're on a
Yeah.
stream, you can't hear anything. But it's the element of surprise. If you're in a piece that he's not going to know you're there, you got the wind and
I'm
everything
not good
in
with
favor.
that. Surprise.
I can sit all
I
day
wanna
if I
know.
know a good spot. I can sit all day, day after day. I don't
Yeah.
have a problem. But I can't just track and I've only shot 2 deer with snow on the ground. So everything I've shot is just dry ground.
So you never recovered that buck, huh?
Nah, unfortunately, never found his antlers either. Yeah,
Dang.
that's one of my favorite stories.
But that's awesome.
I know guys that have shot like 230-pound bucks that were incredible racks with their bows that did the same thing, but they stalked them and shot them, and I thought that was going to be $2 in a week.
That's a
bedded.
challenge in itself.
But just to get to the rock, and I remember back, I was still I didn't know much about hunting or bow
Right,
and all
yeah.
that. I'm still kind of new, but it was almost all worked out. You know,
That is
It's an
awesome.
adrenaline rush.
God.
it was.
Jeez. Well, we're at what are we at, Lance?
We're at an hour and 10.
Yeah. So we're at time.
I know you got to ride home, and
That was no
it's about
problem.
8 o'clock, but
You got
It's all up to you guys.
anything else you want to throw in there? Any
I don't know.
words of wisdom?
I just like to encourage younger hunters. That's why I write the stories I do, just that they get to experience what I went through, and I like to read.
Right.
If you guys shot a buck, I don't care how big it is. The size doesn't matter to me. It's
it's a
just
story.
it's the story behind what you
Experience.
what you experience going out through the woods.
I
And
think that's what we're trying to do with video, because I'm not a good writer. I don't know about you guys.
Right. Well, and writing and video is just two different forms of storytelling.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And if you're it takes a lot. Like I said, I was 30 years old when I shot my first deer, and it was a spike, so I literally started from the bottom.
Right.
But all my deer that I have shot, I've been lucky. They've been very close. Like that first buck was less than 10 yards away, but
Yeah.
I was facing the wrong way.
Yeah.
I heard him and he was behind. I was like, wow, I'm facing the wrong way, shaking I was shaking like. You want to talk about buck fever? I've had that so many times with the bow. Years before that, up in Candia, shaking so bad that I released the arrow. I had a perfect 6-point buck, like right there broadside,
Yeah.
and I have to hit this little tiny sapling, this big, right where the
only
kill
place.
spot was. Like I could never hit that in a million years, and yet I hit it on that one day.
On
but-
accident, yeah.
yeah.
When you don't
It-
mean to.
yeah, but so for 30, most guys and most young people
Yeah.
that are hunting are starting, at a very young age, and they hunt. They're 40, 50. They're incredible hunters. With me, it started late in life. Plus, I had 2 kids, so I can't hunt full
have
time
time, yeah.
all the time. But my kids are all older now, and
We're in that boat.
I like helping if anybody needs a hand or some advice. I'm no expert because you look at Neil and how successful all these guys are with what they
Yeah.
do. Their
knowledge.
technology is crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm still kind of old school. I like that.
I like that aspect of it, kind of.
you know.
I secretly do, I think.
It's fun.
I do. Yeah, heck yeah.
I actually liked before cameras because you didn't know what was in the woods.
Yeah, it's a surprise.
It was
every
a
time you
surprise.
go
The
out.
bucks, my early bucks were like, oh my god,
Yeah.
like you didn't know what you're. Or the,
smokes.
yeah, or the
Yeah.
little trail, the little string timers. Remember those?
I've only seen one. I've seen one. I've seen that
Oh, you
one
would trip
time.
it. Yeah,
you
would
trip it, and
yeah.
then
Yeah,
you would
walk
look
by.
at the time, and so you would spend the 3 or 4 days in a row sitting there.
At
thinking
that
he's,
time.
he's going to come in at that time at 4:05.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way. When you're younger, you're like so naive about how everything works. But
Where can everyone find your stories and stuff?
just on the New Hampshire Deer Hunting page, I
Okay.
keep my personal Facebook page pretty much the videos, and I keep it clean because I know that there's a lot of anti-hunters, and I have liberal friends.
Yeah.
But and I know that some of them know that I hunt, but they understand. Neither
Right.
one of my kids hunt, but they both eat venison.
Yep.
That's awesome.
So it's been a
You care if we post some of your
No.
social media tags up? All right.
Yeah.
Just want to
No.
include
Yeah,
that so
no.
people can take a
Steal
look
some
at all
pictures,
this
too.
stuff. This stuff.
I don't know
this
if
stuff
you,
is
I
great.
have an Instagram account that my son started back in 2015 called Wildlife Spy. So I don't know if you're on Instagram.
Yep.
But I post the same things to the pages. I do two times a week, Wednesdays and Sundays. And the funny thing when he started that, because he goes, Dad, you gotta
Write that down.
you gotta get a you gotta put this on Instagram. And at the time, nobody was doing videos on Instagram, but they only had to do 14 seconds. So I had to send him emails, and he would post them. And,
Really?
Yeah, and then people started doing videos.
Videos, yeah.
But I was starting that before anybody was doing it, or at least I think I was.
Yeah, I
from
think
my sides,
we just, I don't know, we've only had Instagram for like a year, but
Yeah.
we post the majority of our stuff on Instagram, I think.
Yeah, mainly whatever we post on Instagram is going up on Facebook,
Facebook too. Yeah.
So that's grown to like over 2,000 followers. So
That's
Really?
awesome, man.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
and that's only posting twice a week. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, but you
another
put out
outlet.
some great content. Everyone
Yeah.
loves to see it. It's
Well, it's the camera company I
Yeah.
use.
Right.
They make incredible cameras. They're made in the USA.
Yeah.
They have a great warranty. They back their cameras. You call customer service, you're talking to a rep, and he'll tell you, send the camera in. I haven't had any real problems with them in 6 years. I think I've had 2 issues where I've had to send them in.
That's awesome.
One of them, they gave me a brand new camera.
Just like that. No
Yeah, and they've
questions
actually,
asked,
it's
yeah.
been cool. I've had a couple of their from the company actually commenting on my videos on Instagram.
Oh,
So
awesome.
that's a good thing.
Good deal.
That's sweet,
I
man.
didn't even
Yeah.
know it. We'll have to.
And what company is that?
Reconics.
Okay, yeah.
Expensive
Reconics.
cameras, believe me. And if,
That's why you got
hopefully
4,
nobody
right? That's
nobody
why you got
finds
4.
these. People are probably looking for these cameras where I have them, but hopefully.
All right. So far we got Mount Cara.
Yeah.
Well, that would hurt if somebody did that. But
It's
so
near
far,
stream.
right.
No,
so
I'm
far I've been
just
lucky.
saying it more so if
Yeah,
people
so
want to
people
get
can
a
know.
high quality
Yeah,
camera.
they're up there, but I mean, you see the videos. They're HD sound and video. And I don't know if you guys watch any of my videos on laptops rather than your phone. They're incredible. It's like watching National Geographics.
Yeah.
That's why when I get home, I put them right on the laptop because
You can see them.
I can see them, and it's like, wow. My wife will look at them like the duck videos and everything right there, and
Yeah, it's cool.
it captures
Everything's
everything.
up close. Yeah, that's
yeah,
great.
and then you can go almost a year on a set of batteries, 12 batteries.
Wow.
lithium
That's
batteries.
pretty
Really?
good.
That's
Yeah.
really
That's
good.
wicked
I
good.
can go from right now. I'll go right into November, December, and without
Dang.
Yeah.
And
3
yeah,
years.
holy crap.
I went from December to March, during the winter, all winter long, and never changed the batteries.
Wow.
And that's a high volume of video to
Yeah.
be taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got what they call it'll stop if the deer or what animal, whatever, stops for a second. The camera will kind of shut down and pick up again, so it saves the battery life.
So
on
it's
the
I
not-
said I
camera.
keep
Yeah.
taking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
the same,
especially
yeah.
at night, because if you just do 30-second videos at night, the flash, and I like white flash. I know it's not. I know the deer are spooked. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But I like the white flash because I like to see the nighttime lit up.
Right.
My original.
Well, that too. They also kind of like, oh, what's that? And they kinda
yeah,
looking at
sometimes
you.
coyotes don't like them.
No.
Coyotes
They'll
do
take
not like
right
white
off.
flash.
Soup gone.
Seems like coyotes can jump the camera too.
Oh,
Or you just
he-
get their tail.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I ever get. I never get a coyote during
Yeah.
night. If he comes into that camera, he's gone.
Yeah.
They just don't have anything. And up until in 2014, I only owned one camera. It was a cam tracker, a digital 7.2, and that's the only camera I had.
Wow.
And I had that for 10 years. That was made in the U.S. also.
Yeah.
Never had a problem until 2015.
Last year we had a group of coyotes take over a piece, and we had puppies rip down a trail camera.
Did you get them on video?
We have
Okay, so we would
picture.
have a picture. No, we had to set the picture. It was just a new location. Like, we'll just throw a camera up here. If we get any action, we'll play around with the piece. And we'd get a picture of it cockeyed, then back up, then you see an ear, cockeyed, back up straight, cockeyed, back up, and all of a sudden you'd see the puppy looking in the camera.
Oh, God, that's
What
great.
the heck? Then all of a sudden it'd be cockeyed. Then
It was because
He
it
ripped
was
it
a
off the
smaller
tree.
tree, so we had a lot of slack in the line.
yeah,
And so it was probably blowing in the wind or something. And it must have caught one of the pup's eyes. But you can see it like first. It's like what is this? And then they're tugging on it.
so it's taking every picture it moves.
Yeah.
But then they
then
dragged it 20 yards.
There's one when it's laying on the ground facing up, and the dog's looking straight down at it, and then he must pick it up because his teeth marks on the camera,
Yeah.
and you can see where he's running because there's a picture of the tree, picture of
yeah, it's all blurry. It's all blurry. He's taking.
And
off
I
with
just
it.
by chance I was with I think it was with Jackson.
Yeah, you were with
and
Jackson.
my,
You're like, hey, I found that
and
camera.
my parents maybe I
Yep,
can't remember.
Yep, you're right.
And I took a shortcut to where the tree was, and I happened to just step on it. I'm like, oh, a bear got it.
Yeah.
And then I thought it was a bear, and went back and was sure as shit. It was a couple puppies just tossing it around.
Yeah, then we had
Do you
some-
have your cameras in like metal housings or bear-proof
No.
housings?
Nothing.
Have you had a problem with them hitting the camera?
We had a bear come lick it. I mean, they'll come nudge it, but nothing.
And we
Just
had
the coyotes,
we've
that's
had a
it.
lot of bear activity too over
We
the
have
past year.
lots of bears.
And they always search out your camera, or they usually don't see it?
No.
Once last year, I think that was it.
God, they
All the other
always-
ones, they come right
Yeah.
by and they
Really?
just
They
keep
always
walking.
find mine. They're always messing with it
Yeah.
to the point where
My grandfather's had some crushed and chewed right up to nothing.
Yeah.
I'm glad
for
I have
Yeah,
to, because I mean,
for sure.
to replace one of those cameras.
That's near baits, obviously. You can make
expensive.
it
Yeah,
a
so
second
putting it in the
camera.
middle. You saw the one he's scratching his back and then his
Yeah, yeah.
rear end. And I had snugged that thing up with the cable lock. Like, I couldn't even move it. And, they,
He
2
just
seconds,
comes
he
up
just
to it.
turned it, decided to turn
Yeah.
it around.
Guess what? No more
But
pictures.
No
for
more
you.
pictures for you.
Well, I don't get it. Like, you got your bird feeder steak, and those things are pretty rugged. I'm talking like, 9/16 big steak, and the bear just come over and they fold the things in half.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
nothing. I was talking to my grandfather about that this morning because he had a bear in his yard this morning.
Yeah.
And man, the power they got.
And the thing with bear is you have to put your cameras. You got to, like where the stump is. I either got to, if I want the bear, I got to mount it low to get the bobcats and the bear at the stump. If I want to get moose, I got to put it up on the tree
'Cause you just
5.5
get
feet.
feet or
Because
whatever.
if I have it high, I can't get the bear in the picture because even a big bear
you just
doesn't
see the hump.
You
Yeah.
just see the back, and so you got to. And that place is a great place, but there's only a limited amount of trees. But it's a great area to capture everything
Right.
coming and going there. So
Good deal. All right. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap it up.
all right, thank you.
I
Hey,
don't know how
thank
much
you.
I mean, I appreciate like conservation wise for the waterfowl. That's a lot you
Man,
do.
that's a lot of work just
for-
for your personal pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, but I
Just-
enjoy doing it, and I'm gonna hopefully do it as long as I live because it's my passion.
Right.
I love hunting, but this is it's something else to do in the wintertime. The,
Right.
Enjoyment.
the
Yeah.
enjoyment of checking to
Heck
see
yeah, that's awesome, man.
what's going on and
I'm
bringing those
interested in
birds
getting into
back.
some of this too.
And then I the Steve Champa, Adam Evans, and other guys have private messaged me on there on building boxes now, and
Yeah.
I don't know how many people from that page have contacted me, and I love seeing that. That something was
awesome.
something
you're
that
spreading,
was
you're spreading something.
spreading it, something that
huge.
was
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah,
Everybody kind of
definitely.
overlooked and forgot about this.
You're right.
And if it hadn't been for that one wood duck box out there, I probably wouldn't even be doing that. You
Right.
know?
We should get your do's and don'ts of putting wood duck boxes together, like your ideal tree spot or how
Yeah,
Right,
it's
yeah.
What to put
it's
into it,
best to
just
put them over,
make a
in the
list.
water in a swamp, on
Yeah.
a wetland piece on a dead tree, slightly tilted, like I said. But if you can't, on the edge of the water, usually you can wrap some sheet metal around the bottom of the tree to keep the
Squirrels and
raccoons
crap,
or
yep.
squirrels. But other than that, I think I want the boxes to last quite a few years. By
You ever run just steaks? You ever just stake in
no,
the middle of a
I
bog
really
or
wouldn't.
anything?
Where I'm putting these things is like a real pain to get to.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and nobody's going to see these things where I put them. So, I have some new areas this winter. I think I just saw. I actually went to put a camera out there, and I just saw a wood duck with the chicks there.
Oh,
And I mean, that's
Yeah.
way the heck out in a different area.
Yeah.
And I think, well, here, this is going to be a place a box is going to go now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's awesome.
So
Nice.
that'll be this winter. I'm going to definitely get one out there.
Good deal.
But it's a lot of fun. And thank you for having me. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed
I
it.
Oh,
appreciate
we
you
love
guys taking
spreading the
the
word
time.
of everyone. Everyone has a story. It's great.
Yeah. Thanks
Love-
for your stories and your
yeah.
insights, man.
Dude, that was
you.
awesome.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Let's end it.
Let's wrap it.
See ya.
Yeah, baby, when we're together, it's like Vegas times 3. But in the morning, I'll know better. 'Cause you're so bad for me. Just like a sip of wine leads me to drink. You're my gateway drug. I'm starting to think it's gonna take much more than just 12 steps. So call Betty Ford, call Dr. Drew. Save me a bed, 'cause in a month or two I wanna quit you, girl. Just not yet. Yeah, baby, when we're together, you're the only drug I need. But in the morning, I'll know better. 'Cause you're so bad for me. Barreling down the road past these city lights. You got your hands on the wheel, a look in your eye. I ask myself, is it time to slow down? But the night's still young, we're full of gas. Credit cards in my pocket with some limit left. And we got friends in the next town. Yeah, baby, when we're together, it's like Vegas times 3. But in the morning I'll know better, 'cause you're so bad for me. Yeah, oh baby, when we're together, it's like Vegas times 3. But in the morning I'll know better, 'cause you're so bad for me. Oh, 'cause you're so bad for me. 'Cause you're so bad for me.